Welcome to her comeback. I'm so glad you're back with me. This is where 50 isn't your finish line. It is your starting point, the starting point of everything you want your life to be, the person that you are meant to be. I'm your host, Michelle Thompson, and we are proving that your best chapter may just be the one you haven't written yet. We'll continue each episode featuring honest conversation with women who have stopped going at it alone and have found their way to fulfillment, joy, and purpose in their second act. You'll hear about their struggles, their breakthroughs, and the practical steps that they took to create lives that they actually love. This podcast will show you how other women have made their comeback and how you can too. Welcome back.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to her comeback. I am delighted to have our guest today, Vicki Thomas. Vicki is the Chief Purpose Officer at My Future Purpose. It is a membership organization that offers biweekly guest speakers, quarterly workshops, virtual retreats, and collaborative initiatives. With over 5 years in this role, she helps individuals discover and harness the power of purpose in their personal and professional lives. She is a former executive at ABC TV in New York and a vice president of marketing and advertising for the Credit Union National Association. She has a rich background in media, marketing, and storytelling. In fact, she won a $100,000 Purpose Prize from Encore.org in 2013 for her impactful work that she did raising awareness for Purple Heart Homes, a nonprofit veteran organization that provides housing solutions to older veterans. Vicki's also produced and marketed the Dancin' Grannies exercise videos to national acclaim and created PBS programs such as Facing Retirement and the Senior Olympics. She's passionate about her lifelong purpose and has no plans to fully retire. Vicki, welcome. I'm so glad and delighted to have you here on Her Comeback.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. And you are in Connecticut, correct? Is where you reside?
Yes.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Very good. I have just some questions here to walk through your amazing story and the things that you've been able to do in your life. So let's start with your successful career at ABC TV. What made you decide to start something new in your 70s rather than slow down?
I guess the desire to find something different, that something was missing in my life, probably started in my 50s.
Okay.
I got to a point and I kept asking myself, I was doing well, I was happy, but something was missing. Okay. I felt that I had become my job description. I felt that in that process, I did not know who am I if this piece of paper is not in front of me defining my duties that I perform for this company. Who am I? And did I become what I wanted to become? And that was a restlessness I experienced for, I don't want to say 20 years, because there were several things I ultimately did. I did a lot of work for financial companies. I put together pre-retirement seminars for women, for Prudential Securities and for Merrill Lynch and for American Express. I did a lot of work for them because men and women are entirely different when it comes to managing their money and even feeling comfortable with it. So I did that, but then I thought, I really need something else. And I realized that our generation was the Woodstock generation, that we marched for civil rights, that we marched for women's rights, that we watched a moon landing on black and white television, and that heart of our activism was dormant in me. And it hadn't surfaced for a long time because the 60s passed, you got responsibility, you paid the mortgage, you got married, all of those things. So my purpose always became living in the moment. My purpose working for credit unions, my purpose working for ABC, but what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And how do I want to do that? So instead of slowing down, I decided to start something new. And that's when I co-founded with my partner, My Future Purpose. And along the way, I realized that in the 60s, we've gone from VW vans to Medicare plans. We've gone from free love to free shipping. We've gone from Woodstock to wisdom. And so I thought, if we're going to live longer, and let's say if you retire at 65 and live to 90, that's not retirement, that's another life stage. So you have to be prepared to what are you going to do that's going to give you joy and satisfaction. And paid positions, comfortable as they were, nice as they were no longer providing and fulfilling me with who I was, what I wanted to be, and now separated from my job description. Who am I? And that's why I decided to reach out and do something different.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Was there a specific spark that led you and your co-founder to create My Future Purpose? How did that come about?
It's that search for purpose, for my purpose. And then
Okay.
during that time, there was a period of time in the newspaper, when you're in television, like I was, you live on trends. You have to stay what's trending because that's what you bring to your audience. And that's how the news, everything is about what's trending. So I'm always aware of what's trending and to stay on top of what's trending. And I kept seeing these articles that appeared in magazines and newspapers about how people are searching for their purpose. One article was in the New York Times. It was a Sunday New York Times, and it was an interview with President Biden. And the reporter had asked him about being a comforter in chief. What pleasure does he get in being the comforter in chief? What's the reward? And he said, because of the experiences I have had, the lives in my family that I have lost, that are very precious to me. He said, I can relate. I have empathy. And he says, when I'm able to comfort somebody, it gives me purpose. Then there was another one, and I just kept seeing all these articles about even companies. 500 companies signed a purpose statement so that they were not only supporting their stockholders, they were providing a sense of purpose to their employees, to their stockholders, as well as to their customers. So purpose became very, very big, and it was trending. So I called my friend Joyce. We traveled together in conferences then roomed together. And I said, hey, Joyce, I said, have you noticed how often purpose is used and I said, it's a trend that's emerging. I said, I think there's a business here. And I said, I think between your skills and my skills, I said, I think we can help a lot of people who are in transition. And that's how we started. That's how My Future Purpose started.
That's just amazing. And in terms of your membership organization, are many of your members older in retirement age, or what would you say?
I would say our average age of our member is probably 55, and our oldest is 92.
Oh, wow.
And she still writes. An amazing, amazing person. So we range, and they're predominantly, I want to say that we're probably 75% women, 25% men. So that's who the members are. And I'll tell you, I had charmed careers. I've led a charmed career life. But what I do now is probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done. To meet people who have found their purpose, who are living their purpose, who can't wait to get up in the morning, who love what they do, who have done extraordinary things, is like you just want to sit back and go, wow, you blow me away. I'm so in awe of you. And I've met so many people I am in awe of for what they accomplished and what they did.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, for anyone in our audience or listeners that are thinking like, oh, this all sounds amazing, but geez, I don't really know what my purpose is. Is there any suggestion that you give to folks to say, hey, this is how you can maybe go about finding your purpose?
Okay, so since we've been at this, we've determined there are 6 buckets if you're going to find your purpose.
Okay.
The first bucket, you can become an advocate. You can advocate for yourself, or you can advocate for a cause you believe in. The second bucket is good can come from loss. Look at all the nonprofits that formed as a result of a tragedy, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Purple Heart Home started as a result of the Iraq War. Look at all the events that started after 9/11. So good can come from loss. The third bucket, you can become an entrepreneur, run your own business, open up your own snack shop or soup shop or whatever it is, run your own business.
Mhm.
The fourth bucket is you can volunteer. You can bring your expertise, your talent, your knowledge, and go and volunteer for a nonprofit who can use your skill sets. And who knows, you might be offered a job within that because they go, that's a skill set we didn't have, and we'd love to add you to our payroll. Or you might be so motivated by what you learned about that nonprofit that you go, you know what? I'm going to start my own nonprofit.
Yeah.
The fifth bucket is having interests or a hobby. Look at the number of women who quilt. Look at the number of men who have collect cars and fix cars and show up at car race or car rallies. So that's a very interesting hobby and an interest, and it gives you purpose. The sixth bucket is if you're so inclined, when you're looking for a job, look at does your purpose align with the company you're about to go to work for? And the seventh bucket, do what the hell you want.
Yeah.
And in our organization, if in our store, we have a deck of cards. There are 56 cards in that deck,
Mhm.
and they're color coded to every one of the purposes that I mentioned. And on the back side is I enjoy helping other people. And there's a whole series of cards, and you put them in a pile. Yes, that's me. No, that's not me. Maybe that's me. Then what you do is you wind up with a whole lot in your yes pile. You go through your yes pile, you cull it, and you pick the top 10.
Okay.
Then you take that top 10 and you create a pyramid. You put your first one on top. You put the other 2 underneath, the other 3 under there, and 4 under there. And then you turn them over. And you turn them over and go, oh, wow, looks like I'm leaning toward entrepreneurial tendencies. And oh my gosh, I have a hobby and an interest in here. So it kind of gives you an idea by taking that deck of cards and helping you determine a direction. And then, of course, we take them through a journey of once they've determined their direction. Do you want to start a business? How do you do it? Well, we have a program for that. It's called Mavericks Wanted, from career to calling. So anyway, everything segues and blends from one thing to another.
That's amazing. I love it. When you call yourself the Chief Purpose Officer, what does that actually mean to you?
Well, it's interesting. You have all these typical corporate titles, vice
Yes.
president, manager, director. Why would you be ordinary? If you're going to start a business, be, as Mickey says, be outrageous. So I don't know where I saw it somewhere. I guess on LinkedIn, I saw somebody was a chief purpose officer. And I thought, wow, that's really good. I'm claiming that. I don't know who was the first person, but that's going to be me from now on. And sometimes people ask me and say, is that really a job, a position? I said, it is now, and I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got the idea of a chief. I stole it, actually. It's not my original idea. So somebody else got it. And it's interesting because Joyce is the chief relationship manager because she was upset. Well, I was going to be a vice president. I can't be a vice president if you're a chief. I have to be a chief too. So we have a purpose officer and a relationship manager. And those are the 2 things that are really important
Yeah.
in any business. And boy, now more than ever, relationships and relationship
Absolutely.
management. Yes.
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 Yes. Oh, that's terrific. Really cool stuff. Now, I understand like that you had to pause the purpose group discussions as a COVID pilot. What surprised you most about what people needed during that time?
When we started My Future Purpose, our goal was to be able to do conferences up and down the Eastern, on the what we called the Amtrak corridor. And we put together a whole program. And we had a keynote speaker. And in fact, we had designed these buckets that we identified as advocacy volunteer. And we found people to be on a panel in each one of those. Well, then COVID hit and we had to cancel our conference. And so I thought, and then comes this isolation. I mean, we were shut down, we were locked down. And it was like people stopped commuting, start making sourdough bread, banana bread, whatever, growing their hair out. I mean, from roots, their roots came out and it was white like mine. And I said to Joyce, I said, God, I said, I think the worst thing that can happen now is isolation and loneliness. And I said, I think that we should create a Zoom session and bring some of our speakers to be able to talk about these various themes of purpose. And so that's how Pause for Purpose began. It's because we had a conference and we had a whole lot of speakers lined up, and we just tapped those speakers and said, hey, would you be willing to talk about, we had one fireman from 9/11 who lost 26 guys from his ladder truck to talk about what he went through and how they came to form Heart 9/11. We had a lady who got into drugs so bad she went into the depths of despair, who started an advocacy group for addicts. And she became our topic on advocacy. So we had them all talk, and that just sparked a lot of interest with people who were home, working from home, and suddenly realizing, I'm not so happy. Like my job, I really like that I'm not standing on a train platform commuting into the city, or that I'm not stuck in traffic for all these hours. I'm home and I'm using productive time, and I'm starting to think different. I'm starting to think I'm not happy being confined to my job. I need to look at something else. And COVID changed us dramatically, changed kids, changed. It's still affecting us today.
Yes.
And what it did is it led to a lot of people starting their own business. A lot of innovation started as a result of COVID. There were some good things a lot of good things that came out of COVID. And still today, they're leading healthy companies and they're happy and they've changed their lives. COVID caused many to change their lifestyle for the better.
Definitely. I totally get that. Let's talk a little bit more about your book. So your book is called From Woodstock to Wisdom, A Boomer's Journey to 80. So tell us, what made you write it now and who did you write it for?
Okay. So I decided at age 78 that I wanted to be an influencer. I knew nothing about it and I suck at social media. And so I signed up for this course. How to become an influencer. Oh, I thought that just fits me so right. And its timing couldn't be better. And it's got to be trending, because if I'm going to do it, it's got to be trending. Fill out all the forms, fill out all the application, asked all these questions, sent in my money. In the end, it asked, like, who are you? Tell us a little about yourself. How old are you? All that kind of stuff. About 2 weeks later, I get a call from this guy, Duncan McCoy. Vicki, we got your application. And I said, oh, did I miss something? He said, oh, no. But we're just calling because we want to let you know we'd be happy to refund your money. Why would I want my money refunded? Well, because everybody in the class is in their 20s and 30s. And I said, I like 20s and 30s. And I said, I may be slower. And I said, Duncan, you fell into an ism. He said, a what? I said, an ism, ageism. I said, you have a perception of who I am. You have that vision of this 78-year-old woman who's applied for this in her right mind. Is she even in her right mind that she sent in this application? I said, you don't know a thing about me, and you've judged me. You've put me in the ageism category. So I took the course, and then I decided, okay, how am I going to do this? So I'm going to start by posting. I started in January of last year. Every week, I'd post a topic. First, I talked about who we were as a generation, how music influenced. We went from Woodstock, or we went from VW vans to Medicare plans, from free love to free shipping, and from Woodstock to wisdom. And so who were we along the way and who are we now? Then I got into what are some of the funny things that happen to us as we age? And what are some of the things that we should think about that we might not have thought about? And I'd post every week. And then I'd take that post and I'd expand it into either a 750 or a 2,000 word article. I wrote my book in snackable sections because 50% of people have not read a book in 2024. And I figured they're streaming,
Wow.
they're getting little tidbits, little sections. We don't have the attention spans we did. So why would I burden somebody with a 3,000 to 5,000 word article? I'm making it simple. You can choose, it's bathroom read if you want to. You don't have to follow it in sequence. And I wrote articles that were funny, like how many jean sizes are in your closet? And for me, they went from a 10 to a 16. And I had this whole thing about the comfort your jeans give you and the stories they tell about the life you live. My 10s, back in the days of my Zumba days, and when I was on the train platform commuting into New York City. So each size tells me a story. Then I did one on we laugh so much we leak, or the bottle caps have gotten an 1/8 inch smaller. So trying to open them is very hard. And they've gotten smaller. Well, that's good for the landfill, but an 1/8 of an inch for these fingers, not that easy. You get these clamshells that are in plastic. And I swear to God, you better have worked out a gym to be able to open the things. I did one on that. Then I did another section on, I went to a Willie Nelson concert, which was fabulous. He was 92. And he sang a song that haunted me that I'd never heard before. And it was, Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die.
I love that.
And I'm driving home, and those words just stayed with me. And I thought, wow, music was such an influence to us in the 60s. Bob Dylan, we were on the eve of destruction. Respect, Aretha, when she sang, we sang louder. We danced on vinyl to the Supremes. And so I thought, what would be my playlist now? What's my playlist now that I'm in my 80s? What would be my playlist for my celebration of life? And so I started to think about the songs that I wanted. What's your playlist? What songs would influence you? And so those are some of the things that are in my book. I also talk about why it's important to write your own obituary rather than have somebody else write it, and write it with a sense of humor. And even Warren Buffett years ago told his young kids to write their own obituary. It is a writing exercise, and it's something hopefully you'll live up to. And 87% of obituaries are written by a funeral home. Why would you want that?
Wow, that
Wouldn't
high.
wouldn't you want to write your own obituary? Or, and sometimes kids may not remember everything about mom or dad. So start it for them, have it in your papers so that it's all handy for them. And
What a great idea.
I took in the back of my book, I put a list of all the inventions that happened from 1946 to now that we have had to adapt, accept, embrace. I did a whole list of what were all the old radio shows we listened to. What were all the old television shows we rushed home from school to watch, from the Mickey Mouse Club to American Bandstand. And I did a one on old movies that we went to. And then if you're so inclined and you still want to read a book, I provided a list of some books that I recommended. And I would expand the articles, and then I submitted my manuscript in September, and my book came out in January.
Oh, congratulations. That's just amazing. Oh, I love it. It sounds like a really great read. What would you say is the most damaging myth about getting older that you want to bust, that you want to say, you know what, that's just not right? What would you say that is?
I would say that, and when I talk to you a little bit about ageism, I think the word retire is, to me, a bad word because it means to go away. At 65, you retire and you go away. And the perception that people have of older people in fact, I have to be, truthfully, my hardest year and age that I ever had to accept was 80. I looked forward to 16, driving, freedom.
Yes.
I looked forward to 18. I lived in Wisconsin. We could drink beer. I looked forward to 21. I could throw away the fake ID card, and now I can walk into a bar by myself. And then you get responsible, pay them, all that stuff. 50 arrives. Ha 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 ha, you turned 50. AARP magazine shows up in your mailbox. Then 65 arrives. Well, now we can apply for Medicare. That's really good. I like that I have Medicare. Then what? Then comes 75. Wow, 3/4 of a century old. And then I'm thinking 80. And what is the perception of old? There's a book written by Louise Aronson, and it's called Elderhood. In her book, right in the beginning, she has make a column. In one column, write old, and in the other column, write elder. List all the words that come to mind when you think of old. Frail, feeble, crippled, demented, slow, humped over, slumped. Those are some harsh words about being old.
They are. Yeah.
Then go to elder. Fill in the words of what is an elder. Wise, wisdom, accepting, intelligent, experienced. Wow, how do we go from here to here? So once I accepted that I'm an 80 elder, I became comfortable with being old. But we need to change the perceptions because today, 11,000 people are eligible at 65 to retire every day. Now, they can choose to retire because they want to, they have something else to do, or they may have to work because they didn't save enough money. And so we have to think that if you're going to live from 65 to 90, that's a whole lifetime ahead of you. And what can you do? I don't like, our check engine light is going to come on more as we have gotten older. That's just going to happen. But I don't like the word ageism. I don't like how people talk about it. I don't like being made a victim because somebody might say that, it's ageist, I lost my job. I don't think we should be complaining. I think we need to be examples of experience and wisdom to be able to help others, be able to support or be able to benefit from what we've learned along the way. And I would say probably the hardest thing is changing the image of old. I'm 80. Do I feel 80? I had a reporter call me. She asked me a bunch of questions. And one of the questions she asked, can I ask you another question? I said, sure. She said, have you noticed any difference about being 80? I thought, God, nobody's asked me that. So I thought, well, yeah, I can tell you. I can't put my jeans on standing up anymore. When I put my underwear on, my little toe gets caught in my underwear. This lip up here is starting to sink inside my mouth now. I was once 5'7", I'm now 5'5". My feet have gotten bigger, but I don't even remember what 50 felt like. And I don't feel any different now than I did at 50, other than some of these things have changed in my body, but I've learned to live with them.
So, oh gosh, what an amazing life that you have. And I just love your spirit and your attitude and your approach in this chapter. And it's not been without hardships. We were talking earlier. I mean, you've had some health challenges, some scary situations there, and you've been able to survive those and overcome. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience about just overcoming some of those difficult times?
So I was on vacation. I think this would have been 2018. And I had vaginal bleeding. Not normal. So I went to see my doctor. They did a pap smear, concluded that it was cancerous. So I had to have a hysterectomy. And when you have a hysterectomy, I don't know if this is typical in all hospitals, but in mine, they have an oncologist in the room because that sections are taken and sent to a lab, and that oncologist is responsible, I guess, for determining. And when I left the hospital, they said, everything looks fine, everything looks good, and we'll see you in 2 weeks just to check up. Well, in about 4 days, I got a call. No woman likes to get a call from her oncologist. This is not a good thing.
No.
And so when I went in, he told me in his face, everything about him was different. And it was very serious. And he said to me, I had both a sarcoma and a carcinoma. I had a very, very rare cancer called MMMT, which is a uterine cancer, but it's very dangerous because the sarcoma are little cancer cells that can go anywhere. You can't see them.
Wow.
And he said, the life expectancy is 3 to 5 years. Wow. I left his office. He was on the phone to the radiologist and said, George, I want you to see a patient. I want her to start chemo on Monday. And I'm off to radiology. It was pouring rain and all of this. And I'm thinking, I feel so good. I feel so good. How can you tell me this? And I left radiology. It was pouring rain. My car was parked way back in the parking lot. And I sat in the car and sobbed. And then I turned the windshield wipers on, wiped away both my tears and the raindrops, and I figured I cannot have a pity party. I have to be strong. I have to follow the protocol. I have to trust the people who have been put in charge of my health, and I have to hope for the best. If it isn't the best, well, I've had a great life. And so we came home and I told my husband, we got all our papers in order. We did all of this stuff. 2 years later, I get breast cancer and I had the lump removed on both breasts. And they told me I needed chemo. And I said, no way am I ever having chemo again. And I had radiation. So I'm 7 years out with my rare cancer and I'm 5 years out with my breast cancer. Now, how did I make it? Angels and oxygen. I had so many angels in my life. I was very transparent about it. And I would post my experience on Facebook. I heard from people, I had no idea how many lives I've touched. And the people at in the infusion room could not have been better. So when my chemo was over, I had an Angels and Oxygen party to thank those who were there to lift me up when I needed it most.
Oh, that's
And
great.
attitude is a big thing. On the 5th year, I'm sitting on the bed. My husband says, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you getting dressed? I said, I'm waiting. He said, what are you waiting for? 5 years. Today's my 5th year. I'm expecting some sort of calling. And he says, get off your butt. It's not happening. And, so you go in first every 6 months. Then you get to the once a year. Well, I'm on the once a year time. And I'm grateful. I am living beyond my expiration date and grateful for every day that I am here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations on what you've been able to overcome and to have the full, purposeful, healthy life today. It's so amazing. Well, you've shared so many good things with us. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, what's a good way for them to get in touch with you?
They can go to our website, www.myfuturepurpose.com. On that website is our store. You can order my book. And I have to say, if you order the book from my website, it's a lot cheaper than going to Amazon. Or they can email me at Vicki@myfuturepurpose.com. And I'd love to hear from your listeners and people who may have eavesdropped on our conversation today.
Oh, wonderful. So wonderful. Thank you so much. I am so glad that our paths crossed. We didn't say this at the beginning, but it was really kind of a coincidence that we just happened to be in the same place at the same time when you were visiting Naples. So it's just been a joy to have you today. So thank you, Vicki. And I wish you continued success and all the best in the coming years.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure.
Thanks so much for joining me today on Her Comeback. I hope this conversation inspired you to keep moving forward no matter where you are in your own journey. If you love this episode, I'd be so grateful if you would subscribe to the show on my YouTube channel at Michelle Thompson Life Coaching. Go there for more encouragement, insights, and just real talk about making a comeback happen. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss new content. You can also visit hercomebackpodcast.com for notes, resources, connect with me, connect with other women in our amazing community who are rewriting their stories. Remember, your setback isn't your final chapter. It's just the setup for your greatest comeback yet. I'll see you next time. Until then.